Sure, TCA Summer rolls on indeed. Often find myself complaining this time of year that there's not enough to talk about. And yet, over the last week, we have seen, well, the WNBA All Star game go down on Saturday night. Dustin Poirier laid the gloves down at UFC 318 to confirm his retirement. The Blue Jays have taken another series. We are into the hot and heavy stuff at Euro 2025. The REDBLACKS, well, the REDBLACKS are drumming up feelings. We'll get to a bunch of that, but nothing to complain about in terms of the amount of sports to talk about on this edition of the podcast, and nothing to complain about with this week's co-host. Michaela Schreiter sitting in. Appreciate you. How you doing?
Matt, that's the first time I've experienced the TCA Summer audio up close and personal, and I gotta say, I'm a big fan.
It's got a hook, eh?
Oh, it's so good. Apologies if you explained this on the show before and I missed it, but who did that?
I like to call it the TCA House Band, but really, it's just AI, and you feed it. You just feed enough stuff, and eventually it'll get something right. For all the damage it's doing to our society, it can help me out on one thing.
At least it got something good.
This is right. How you been? What's going on in your in the Schride summer?
Well, it is Schride summer right now because I'm on vacation.
Hey.
I just finished week 1 of vacation, and I'm now about to enter week 2 of
Beauty.
2.
Yeah.
So I'm halfway through, and so I'm at that okay, now I'm finally relaxed stage. And so I have a whole other week to enjoy it, which is good. Which also means that I can drink beer on a Sunday guilt-free, which is why I'm here.
I'm glad we could help facilitate that. I'm sure if you weren't here, you would not have done it.
Never.
Yeah, look, a bunch of places we can start. And you know what? Even I think this is more important than even the beer. So we're going to do this first, Strides. I think. Yeah, I know. Not many things more important than the beer. Look, I think we need to pour one out. And not really, because craft beer is expensive and whatever. But show some love to two people who had a very, very bad week. And these were just two spouses left at home, had no idea what was going on with their significant others. And the next morning, they woke up to a changed world. Their entire lives thrown into upheaval, suffering humiliation, and in the most public way possible when they found out that their two significant others were Coldplay fans. And the whole world found out with them. Just brutal. I can't imagine going through that in such a public way, Shride. So love to those two, whoever you are out there.
I just got to say, every now and then, maybe it happens once a year at this point. It's getting more and more rare. But every now and then, there is a moment on the internet that we all agree on, that we all come together and just enjoy for the sake of enjoying it. Yes. And I'm just so happy that we had that this week. It has been I took a break from social media for a couple of days, and the day that I got back on social media was the day that this Coldplay stuff went down.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, bless. I'm so happy to be back. I've never loved the internet so much in my life. It was wonderful. It combines all the things we hate, right? Billionaires, CEOs, HR, and I'll add Coldplay. I like Coldplay.
Okay.
But I know people love to hate on Coldplay, so I'll throw that in there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not a Coldplay guy. Look, I recognize they're huge, they're whatever. It's not if you love it, I'm not here to yuck your yum or whatever the expression is, but it's his voice. It's a little whiny for me or something. The funniest thing about the whole, if those two don't react the way they do, this never becomes a thing.
No. Their spouses may have found out.
Maybe.
Because I feel like people at work someone would have blabbed, someone would have shared it. But if they didn't react the way they did, nothing would have happened.
Yeah, and you buy yourself a little more time before they find, because it's not like your spouse is at home able to watch the concert, and it only became funny because these people, one's trying to hit the deck and the other's trying to turn away and whatever else. And so it becomes a thing that ends up on the internet, where if you just kind of smile, and actually, weird as it is, the best thing you could have done is kiss, blur your faces,
yeah, that's true. It'll cover it up at least,
right? So anyway, shout out to two people left at home to put their piece. Now, I did hear that the CEO guy is worth about 1.2 billion. So his wife's about to be worth about 600 million. She's doing all right. She's
good for her.
She'll be fine,
as she should.
That's right. Now the beers. The only thing, second to the Coldplay controversy. What do you have in Strides?
Well,
What a pro.
There we
what
go.
A pro.
Haven't forgotten anything.
No.
I'm going with Burdoc's Chateau Czech Pilsner.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this one. Now, obviously, I've heard of Burdock. One of our buddy Graham Creech's favorites, I believe, is...
It's one of my favorite breweries in the world. Every time I go there, I have great beer.
Okay. Have you had this one before, or is this one new to you?
So I had it at Craft, I think, after an Ottawa Rapid game, I want to say a few months ago, or a month or two ago. And this one was gifted to me by my buddy Christopher Skinner, who some may know. He used to do content for the Sens, and he has a bit of a craft beer following on Instagram. But he and I work together, and so we do this like beer exchange every now and then, where if one of us gets like a somewhat unique beer or something that maybe you can't get readily here in Ottawa, we'll give it to the other one to try if we have some extras. Like I did that with the Stone Cold beers. I did it with your 10th anniversary beer. I gave him one because we were gifted a couple, so we had a couple to spare. And then so he gave me this one and another one from Burdock. I think they're Dunkel, which I haven't tried yet, but this one's super tasty and it's only 4.5%. So I figured it was a good early Sunday afternoon beer to start with.
So we have taken a different approach here.
You're going... I'm going to guess. Can I guess the percentage?
Do it.
Of whatever beer you're drinking? I'm going to say greater than 9.5.
It is greater than 9.5.
Jesus Christ.
It's a time and a place thing, right? It's I'm about to go enjoy a Sunday afternoon. We'll start with it. Now, I got two here. We got to get this show out in a certain amount of time. Schreids has got better things to do on a Sunday afternoon, obviously.
No.
Well, okay, then I do. Like you and I both.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
No, that's fair. You guys schedule.
Yeah. This is so. I want to put the pedal down to start, and then I have something to back it up to coast with. That I'm going to shout out both here in case we don't take a specific, break for second beer here. The first one is from Big Rig. This is a 10.3% triple IPA called Mohawk. That noise you just made is the noise I make the first time I get in the lake when I get here each time. And maybe the noise I'll be about to make with this beer. Yeah, it's called the Mohawk. 10.3%, triple IPA. Supposed to be heavy on the mango, which is supposed to balance out the 10.3 of it all. I've been told a couple times here, Schreids, before I get to the second beer, I've been too hard on Big Rig because I've sort of steered away just a little bit since they sold. And it's sort of been pointed out, it wasn't a complete sale, and it's not the same way that Mill Street was sold until one of these giant conglomerates. Where are you at on Big Rig? Do you still try them out now and then, or are you sort of on to other things?
I'll always have a soft spot for Big Rig because it was really the first craft beer I got into when they opened, and I think it was their Gold. That was kind of my go-to beer for a while, and I love their Canada location. It's a really nice tap room, and yeah, I don't know that I've ever had a beer from Big Rig that I didn't like. I'll admit that I don't seek it out as much as I used to because I honestly don't know. I haven't been to their tap room in a while, and right. I can't remember the last time I was in an LCBO and I saw a Big Rig beer that I haven't tried before, so I just haven't sought them out. But yeah, I like Big Rig. I'll always, I've never disliked a beer from them.
I will say this, to their credit, when we were talking to Andy Nita about brewing up that Tall Can Audio 10th anniversary beer that you referenced a minute ago, and I will say Andy reports less than 2 cases left over at the Nita Beer Company. So if you haven't had a chance to try it yet and you've been looking to do so, I'd get that done this week. The beautiful Bytown Dark IPA. He asked us for some dark IPAs that we like, and the black IPA from Big Rig was one that we put on the list, saying really nice beer. I think it's called Release the Hounds, or I might be mixing that up with a different one of their beers. But anyway.
That is a friend of the show, Josh's one of his favorite beers of all time.
Okay, yeah, and it is a nice beer. So that was on the list to their credit. So I haven't totally, I've just had some people say you're kind of hard on them. You treat them like a corporate now, and that's really not accurate. So the second one that I'm going to have here, should we get that far, is 2.5%. A pump the brakes moment, right? A easy. It's still early in the afternoon kind of thing. This comes from Lake of Bays. Our friend Angela, the last time she was in studio, dropped off a couple of things. Well, more than a couple of things, but This one's called the Moonlight, and it's sort of a play on the Moonstruck, which is their dark lager, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite 2 or 3 beers from Lake of Bays. And they've tried to turn over, and successfully done so, frankly, over the last few years, lighter, like a lot of, if you just want like a 2.5%, 3%, something, maybe on a warm Sunday afternoon while you watch the ball game. Something like that. So this is the step down, the light version of the Moonstruck, and it's called Moonlight, 2.5%. We'll get to that a little later on.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, we, look, there's been some Sens in the news this week. I mentioned Euro25. I mentioned the REDBLACKS a bit, but we might as well start with what's most recent, most topical here at the moment. And that's what just went down this weekend, the WNBA All Star game and everything. There was parts of that I knew were going to be news before it started. Parts of it surprised me once it got up and going that I didn't expect. You obviously would have had closer eyes on it than I did. Your main takeaway, and I'm sure there's a few different areas we'll touch on here, but your main takeaway from WNBA All Star Weekend.
Yeah, you're right. There's so many different directions to go in, but I'll just like talk about the weekend itself, the game itself. Like I was saying this on the show, She's Got Game on the TSN Radio Network.
Good show.
So I hear. All-Star games are tough in pro sports. Like, how many All-Star games do we look forward to genuinely as fans? And the answer is not many.
Right.
But I will say, and I am a little biased, but the WNBA All-Star Game remains to me one of the only All-Star games in pro sports in North America that I genuinely look forward to. Maybe it's because I'm such a big fan of these players, and we get to see them up close and personal, and all that. But I watch them almost every night, so I don't know that it's that. But it's just it's not an All-Star game that's lost its luster yet. Maybe that will happen with time, because I know it happens with every sport.
Sure.
But I really like it. It's basketball is it's certainly the All-Star game itself is to no surprise. There's no defense happening whatsoever. So you end up with a score like we had on Saturday of 151 to 131 in favor of Nafisa Collier's team. And I love that, because I did not grow up playing or watching basketball. I only really started watching basketball within the last 10 years or so. And so I don't appreciate the game enough to go, oh, it's a good defensive game. I want to see buckets. I want to see as many points as possible. One thing they have in the All-Star game that they don't have in the regular season is the 4-point mark. So AT&T is sponsored, their logo is on the court, and if you score from their logo, you get 4 points instead of 3, which I fucking love. I think they should implement this permanently. It's awesome. And so you just have this massive score that you see this team run up the clock, and this year was a literal record-breaking score. Nafisa Collier's team, I think they broke the record when they hit 135, if I'm not mistaken. So then they well exceeded that. But I thought the game itself, the entertainment around it was really, really good. And then there's a lot that kind of came out before the game and around the game that we can get into. But overall, I thought the game was a lot of fun.
Well, we had our buddy Andrew Stoughton on last week, just before the Jays fired up the second half, and that was coming out of the MLB All-Star game. And that used to be, for a lot of people, the one that was held up as you can have a good game, but it was always based on there's no physicality, right? If a pitcher wants to roar back now and then and he's facing the top hitter from the other league, and throw 102, he'll do it. But nobody's got to go into a corner. No, the Pro Bowl stinks. The NBA game stinks. The NHL game stinks. And it sort of circles back, to get off topic just a little bit. I'd love to get your opinion on this. Rob and I debated the idea of, because I think it was Ian Kennedy who floated the idea, it's time for the PWHL to bring in an all-star game. And the thing that first came to mind for me was, first of all, we already, in my opinion, have too many breaks in the PWHL season. But is an all-star game going to have any chance at all of living up to what we already get every year, the World Championship gold medal game, and then the Olympic gold medal game? And I know those are different. Those are your sweat, and you don't get the European players involved. But as you just said, there's not a lot of all-star games that are really good. Is a PWHL all-star game something you're clamoring for, that you would tolerate, that you would advise against? Just, do you have an opinion on that before we get back to the WNBA?
It's funny. I had never even thought about it till you just brought it up. So that should tell you everything you need to know. No, I think eventually it will happen because it's something that every professional league does.
And I think it's a right of like we've arrived, right? Or
yeah. What I think needs to happen in the PWHL before that, there's so few teams, and I know we're about to get two more, but there are so few teams. It's so the talent is so compacted in this very small league that you don't really have a need for an all-star game.
You're not
I think the all-star teams
from it, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, if you want an all-star game, just circle your calendars as to when Seattle and Vancouver are playing each other next year, and you will get exactly that.
You can watch your team's best players play in that game.
Exactly. So I don't think we're
And we have the rivalry
yet.
Series, too, right?
We had the rivalry series. We have a lot of international hockey. We'll have the Olympics this year.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like, one thing that we certainly took away from last year is now that the PWHL is here, the IIHF needs to adjust its schedule so that we don't have a World Championships right at the end of the regular season, as opposed to, sometimes naturally in the middle of the season, there is a bit of a lull. Perfect time for a break.
Sure.
Go play some international hockey, come back. I think that's probably what we'll see with the Olympics next year, because, we're heading into an Olympic year. So I imagine the PWHL will plan, that's a date that's harder to move. I think the Olympics are a pretty well-established tournament.
Yeah.
But I think you'll see the PWHL schedule its season such that the Olympics are almost right smack dab in the middle, and that break feels less impactful or awkwardly timed. But then next year, I think we need to see the IIHF adjust things a bit, and then maybe we go from there. I think we need the league to grow to a point where two all-star teams would be significantly different than what we're seeing every night, and we're just not there yet.
No, I think that's fair. To bring it back to the WNBA, one of the concerns going in was obviously, whether it be men's or women's, as you know, basketball is just not high on my radar. So I view, right now the men's game essentially through, hey, how's Canada doing? And SGA, he's doing pretty good. And I view the women's game in a, hey, what's Caitlin Clark up to? Because these are the most zoom out casual fan perspectives that I can bring myself to. But going into this All-Star weekend, Caitlin Clark was in some trouble, and this was being heavily marketed around her. One of the teams named after. What happened going into the weekend, and in your opinion, did it end up taking away much from the game, the fact that she was still there and a big part of it, but couldn't compete?
Yeah, so the way that the WNBA All-Star Game worked this year is they had two captains, Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier, and then they would draft from the pool of players that were elected to the All-Star Game, which I think is really fun. I like it a lot more than like the East-West, or in Olympic years, they'll do the U.S. women's basketball team versus the rest of the All-Stars, because the U.S. women's basketball team is essentially just a bunch of WNBA All-Stars, which is fun, but I don't like it as much. So I like this format a lot. And so, Caitlin Clark's one of the captains. The draft was a big part of it, so we got to see her in that, and who she picked versus who Collier picked. Like, it was a lot of fun to watch all that go down. But then, unfortunately, she's dealing with a groin injury. So she actually wasn't able to play, but she was on the sideline. She was mic'd up. They had her being interviewed. I think she was still very much involved. And, if you came for Caitlin Clark content, I think you got it.
Right.
It did take place in Indianapolis, which is where she plays. So it was like an all-star game very much geared towards her. But, you also had Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell from the Fever on the all-star team. So I think Indiana fans got what they wanted as well. Their home team kind of there. And again, Caitlin was still there. So I don't know, because the one thing with the All-Star game is everyone's dropping so many points that it's not really the end of the world if you don't get to see Caitlin Clark step up and drop a few logo threes. First of all, we watch her do that all the time anyway. Second of all, everyone's doing it, so it's much less special.
Right.
Is there a part of me that would have loved to see just how many 4-pointers she could have put up? Absolutely. But I think we got to see a bit of her personality, which was a lot more fun. And so, it was unfortunate. It really sucks that she's not playing. At the same time, I think they did a good job of still keeping her involved enough that fans kind of got what they paid for.
It's tough, because, at the moment, this is the WNBA's cash cow. And think of whatever your favorite sport is in whatever era, all of a sudden the number one star that we're marketing this thing around goes down, which is always a risk in sports, can happen at any time. It puts you behind the eight ball. But, based on what I've been able to read thus far, like ratings are up again, business is up again, ticket sales are up, not just for Caitlin Clark games. What's sort of, in your opinion, the state of the WNBA? Because obviously, and there's a second part to that question that was reflected in some shirts they wore. We'll get to that in a second. But headed into the game, where's the buzz around the league and how are they doing right now?
It's funny that you mentioned the shirts because I was going to answer this question by going into that, but I'll put a pin in that.
Okay.
The WNBA is still the fastest growing league in North America. It's one of the fastest growing leagues in the world. Women's basketball is the fastest growing sport, the second fastest growing sport in the world to women's soccer. So the WNBA is doing exactly what you would expect. We're still seeing record viewership. Indiana played Dallas last weekend, so that was like Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark. They moved that to the bigger arena in I think it was in Dallas. Or was it in Indianapolis? I can't remember. Anyway, they moved it to a bigger arena because it was drawing a big enough crowd. It was one of the most highly viewed regular season games in WNBA history. Like, all the numbers continue to go up, which is exactly what we expected. Same with the draft. The draft was, after the Caitlin Clark draft, it was the most viewed draft in the WNBA history. So, like, the state of the league is amazing. And we're about to see, they just signed a new broadcast deal, which sees their broadcast revenue go from, I believe it was $45 million to $200 million per year, which is a huge jump.
Yeah.
And so we're finally seeing the broadcast value of the WNBA more accurately reflect where it is, because it was unfortunately ridiculously low by comparison. Mm-hmm. Especially when you consider, I think it was the year before Caitlin Clark joined, the WNBA and the NHL had about the same viewership in the States. I think the NHL was just about 10,000 more viewers per game,
Sounds
which
right.
in the grand scheme of things is pretty low. But
negligible.
they're about the same in and around the 450,000 mark, and yet the NHL made 10 times what the WNBA did in its broadcast deal. Right. I believe it was $600 million to $60 million at the time. So we're finally seeing that WNBA broadcast
job, men.
Perfect timing. We're finally seeing the WNBA broadcast deal more accurately reflect the value of the product. I still think it's low, but it is up there. And the numbers I just mentioned were for the year before Caitlin Clark joined, and the year Caitlin Clark joined last year, we saw like exponential growth in the WNBA and viewership. So the WNBA right now, like it has surpassed the NHL in American viewership. Yeah. On average, it is a higher viewed product than the NHL in the States. So that's where we are right now, and that's why, to get into those shirts that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's such, the current CBA expires in October. They're obviously starting negotiations now. This is a really critical CBA because the players want to make sure, hey, you're experiencing exponential growth. Our salaries better do the same.
Can I get a piece of that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the shirts, in case you missed it, good listener, they came out for warm-ups and before the game wearing shirts. It's, you'll correct me, it said, pay us what you owe us.
Yep.
And I've seen estimates, like, we don't know the exact business. The NBA is a private business, so we don't know the exact numbers. But I've seen, where the NBA and the NHL and those players' associations have negotiated to be at about 50% of league revenue. I've seen in the WNBA players making anywhere from 9 to 22%. Is that sort of the neighborhood you understand it to be in as well?
Yeah, I've heard. The only number I've heard in terms of percentage revenue for the WNBA is in and around, I think it's 9.3%. So, okay. Yeah, roughly that. And yeah, the NBA by comparison is 50%.
Right. And so, look, when you put that out there and you wear those shirts, obviously the worst amongst us emerge. All the fun that we had at some ridiculous CEO Coldplay loving, that fun was spoiled by all the worst amongst us reemerging. Oh, right, I remember why I hate Twitter. Showing up to go, imagine wearing this to work, and your league doesn't turn a profit, and these sorts of things. And look, if this was a dead business that never turned a profit, and look, you can paint the numbers however you want. I wanted to hand this to you, Schreids, because you're going to have a way better handle on it than me. But franchise values keep going up. Broadcast deals that you just mentioned keep going up. Like, there is a point where you understand to make money, you spend money. And as long as everything keeps going up in value, you're sort of comfortable with the fact that, all right, we didn't turn a huge profit this year. At least that's sort of my certainly not business expert takeaway on this thing. Once we get into economics and money, I get a little uncomfortable. But all the indicators around the league suggest this is going up and up and up, and franchise values go up and up. Toronto's about to get their own team. You only have to look at what they paid to get into the league to know that this is in demand right now. So you can put whatever spin you want on those numbers, but it is unavoidable, inarguable, that this is becoming more valuable and bigger and bigger. And as long as you suggest, that broadcast money is coming in, ticket revenues go up, more ticket sales, all of it, yeah, we deserve to get a piece of that. And if you are just running a business, whether you're running it well or not, you still have to pay your employees a fair wage. And right now, that's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. That's the issue here. And, the people who come out of the woodwork to slag off the WNBA when these conversations come up, like, I don't even give them a moment's time because, well, you're clearly not paying attention. Mm-hmm. Like the numbers that I just mentioned suggest that this is a bigger league than the NHL. So
right.
if in the States. So if you're going to come at me with, oh, no one watches the WNBA, like, it's just factually inaccurate. So therefore this conversation's over. But what I will say is, yeah, people love to look at individual year revenues and go, well, the WNBA is not making any money. Guess what? Nor does any other major sports league. The NHL, up until a couple years ago, was considered a non-profit organization. So was the NFL.
Yes.
The value of sports franchises is not the money they bring in year over year. It's their appreciation of value. And if you look at the appreciation of value that we've seen with WNBA teams, it is growing faster than any other league in the world. Now, it has more growth to get because the bar is low. That's fair. But the expansion fee, for example, that we just saw, Portland and Toronto are coming in next year. We just saw 3 other teams added that are paying in and around $250 million for an expansion fee.
Who have all apparently decided to join a dying league that no one's watching.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you do when a sport's failing, right? Yeah. So I believe the expansion fee is in and around $250 million. I don't know if it's for every team, but that as of right now, that's what the most recent teams paid. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Golden State Valkyries, which they joined the league last year, or this current season, I believe their expansion fee was in and around $50 million. Right. So all in that short span of time, we've seen the expansion fees for a team go up by $200 million. Again, clearly a dying league. So that's the important thing to look at, because people will always they'll nitpick at individual year over year revenues when everyone knows that's not the point of any sports franchise. And if we're going to have that conversation, then half of the MLB shouldn't exist.
Sure.
Like that's I really get so frustrated when people get into that conversation around the WNBA, because it seems to be only women's sports that they care about leagues or teams not making a revenue, because most sports teams don't make a profit. Like that's just the reality of sports. So yeah, the league is growing at an exponential rate. I already kind of went through how, and that's not even accounting for the merch sales and the ticket sales, which we know have been through the roof. Mm-hmm. So
based on you alone on the merch stuff.
Yeah, seriously. I'm putting these kids through college, let's be honest. So from broadcast revenues to merch sales and ticket sales, everything is going through the roof right now. This league is growing at an exponential rate, and all the players are saying is, hey, we want a fair percentage of that. Kelsey Plum put it so beautifully, I believe it was like 2 years ago, but she was saying, because everyone gets on the WNBA players, you're never going to make what NBA stars make. No one is asking for that.
Right.
What they are asking for is a fair percentage of what the league makes itself, which the NBA players, they make 50%. Right. So wouldn't it make sense that the WNBA players also made 50% of what their league made? It's standard across sports in North America. Let's make it a standard. If this league is to be functioning professionally, then it needs to pay their players a fair wage, especially when you consider everyone was talking about what Caitlin Clark's rookie contract was and how ridiculous it's like $70,000, which is like ridiculous. People love to say, oh, well, she could make more money in college, forgetting that, sponsorships actually come with you when you join the league.
Sure,
they don't disappear. But because these players can make so much money from NIL deals before they even join the league, like, you got to start paying them fairly when they get
that,
here.
Right? To Canadianize the conversation, Gavin McKenna goes to Penn State. Guy just left playing in the WHL. He's going to make $700,000 next year on NIL money, right? Like, this is a part of the conversation now, and it's just a failure to understand the way franchise values are going up. The way, look, if we go back to that awful 04-05 NHL lockout, which is the league you have quite reasonably compared this to, Gary kept using the term, there needs to be linkage. I got so sick of that term. Linkage between league revenues and player salaries. And you go, okay, fair enough. We've agreed to that. The NHL did, the NBA did, the NFL did. The WNBA needs to. 50% of whatever you make. And look, if we're a failure, then we make less. If you're a success, then we make more too. It's got to be linked. We're going to do the linkage thing. And right now, it's not properly linked at 9%, at 12%, whatever the hell it is. It's not a reasonable amount of the pie going to the players. Quickly, before we move off the WNBA, we did see, I believe it was just last week, the cover athletes unveiled for the new NBA video game. My boy, our boy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one, and Angel Reese is the other. Was that the right choice for the women's representative this year?
I think you could have gone a number of different ways, but I think no matter what, of the choices you had, it was going to be a good choice, and I think Angel Reese is definitely in that conversation. I think I'm glad to see it was her because, unfortunately, as this league grows and fans grow, a higher percentage of racists joined the conversation, and that's what's happened. And she, unfortunately, has been the target of a lot of racism from fans, mostly Indiana fans of a certain player.
Right? We go back to the White House thing, and this has been a conversation for a bit now.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous, and she's a fantastic player, and people love it's funny. Like, I get a lot of people sending me stuff about her shooting percentage and how she had a lower shooting percentage or whatever. And I was like, yeah, her shooting percentage was like 2% lower than Caitlin Clark. So I don't know what the point you're trying to make here is.
Right.
She just plays a different game. She's more of a rebound player, but she is averaging a double-double right now between points and rebounds. She led the league in rebounds last year. She set a rookie record for rebounds and a general record for rebounds in a year. I don't know if you know this, but Kawhi Leonard made an entire career off that kind of play, and we worship the ground that he walks on. And yet, with Angel Reese, we somehow say it's a less important part of the game. But no, I think it was a great choice. I think she's also one of the most recognizable faces, and I think it was a really great pick. And like I said, I would have loved to see like A'ja Wilson, who I think. I would have to look this up. I should have fact-checked this. I want to say she's been on the NBA cover, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But like A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart are the two, and Nafisa Collier are the best players in the league. Nafisa Collier is going to win the MVP this year. Like, I would have liked to see one of those more established players who've been around for a while and have been waiting to get the recognition they deserve get it, but I still think Angel Reese is a good choice.
And sometimes it is just, not in a bad way, but like hype. Like Trevor Zegras has been on the cover of the NHL video game. Like, sometimes it's just, wow, that crazy thing you did this year gets you on the cover, and that's fine, right? It's hype. It's just a game. So I'm told it's in the game. Moving on to the Sens in the news in mid-July. And
sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to fact check myself. A'ja Wilson was on the NBA 2K25, like a version of the cover. So she's got her love, which I'm a fan of.
Fair
enough. Go on.
Yeah. Well, we saw last week, NHL.com put out 3 different lists. It was the top 10 forwards under 25 years of age, top 10 defenders under 25 years of age, and top 10 goaltenders under 25 years of age. Sens pretty healthily represented on all 3 lists. Stutzle and Sanderson both on number 1 on their lists. I don't think that's shocking. We can get into it, but Leevi Meriläinen at number 4 on the goalie list. And look, the goalie thing is always a different conversation. They're kind of voodoo. They arrive at different times. They get into the league at different times. They develop at different rates. In a general sense, and we can drill down on any of the three that you might want to, but I'm just sort of curious, like, as someone who grows up cheering for a team that is in a smaller market, doesn't always feel the love, isn't on U.S. national broadcasts, right? Doesn't always get the league-wide recognition that I'm sure Sens fans feel like they deserve at times. What does it mean, if anything, to see three Sens on all three lists, and in two different cases at number one?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's kind of one of those things where, as a Sens fan, I always feel like, oh, they acknowledged us. Isn't that nice? There is a little part of me that does that.
You love me. You really love me.
Thank you. And no, I think it's great. I think it makes you feel really good about the state of the team as far as the future, right? Like if you've got three players in three different positions on the top 25 under 25 list, then you're obviously doing something pretty well with your young players.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to the goalie as much because I'll be fully honest, I'm not as familiar with this game. Sure. But I'm a huge Tim Stutzle fan, and I'm a huge Jake Sanderson fan. And Sanderson in particular, I thought, like, if I loved him before the playoffs, and I know they lost in the first round to the Toronto Maple Leafs before anybody gets on me, but I felt like I loved him even harder after those playoffs because despite the fact that the Sens only won 2 games and like it wasn't as interesting of a series as I thought it could have been, he was fantastic throughout it. Yes, he was. And so what that showed me was not only is he a great young player, but he's a great young player who steps up in big moments. Mm-hmm. And considering this was their first time together as this group making the playoffs, considering that Sanderson made that much of an impression the first time around, like I can't wait to see what he does going forward, if God willing they make the playoffs next year and in the future. So it made me really happy and really excited about his future. And Tim Stutzle is like, it's not a shocker at all. I keep forgetting this man has been around for so long, and it shocks me that he is under 25.
Under 25,
if I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm a dinosaur. Go on.
Well, it's like when you talk about Sanderson and the impact that he had in the playoffs, that was sort of where my mind went as well. And again, it's because as a Leaf guy, for 6 straight games, I got to look at the Sens and what was happening there. And I think it was pretty clear in game 1, maybe even a little bit in game 2, Stutzle was running around, and a lot of the Sens were, right? Like I think they were shorthanded 9 times in game 1. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we have to show we will be physical, and we will. And it got stupid in a hurry. And the Leafs have a power play that can hurt you. And so game 1 was a little lopsided. And Stutzle, as the series went on, I sort of felt like, okay, through games 2 and 3, maybe a little into game 4, he had sort of, timid is a bad word. It paints the wrong picture, but he was stepped back. Okay, I went too far in that direction, and then maybe stepped back a little too far in being not quite physical enough and was kind of being pushed out. I thought later in the series, again in game 5 and 6, he sort of found that right balance of being more physical, getting involved at the right times, and making plays. And look, you and I probably had this conversation. I had it with plenty of Sens fans giving me the, you scared yet? Are they going to blow it again? Are they, is it going to be the Sens that do it to them this time? I was less worried, as crazy as this will sound, about the Leafs blowing it in that series than I was about, there are guys on this Sens roster you can see figuring it out quickly. And Stutzle was leading the way for me on that. Like, to me, I never thought Sanderson in games 1 and 2 looked rattled a little bit like Stutzle did. But by the games 5 and 6, I felt like Stutzle was back to being, I need to take notice when that guy's on the ice. He's coming now. And if we do end up in a game 7, where certainly the Toronto pressure, the choke thing, all of that is going to set in at the same time that these Sens kids are figuring it out and are like coming hard now. That was, to me, it's funny you brought up Sanderson, who I thought was very good through that series. I thought Stutzle had some ups and downs early on. That was too much. Middle, not quite enough. And then he found the bowl of porridge that was just right, kind of as the series was closing out. He's been a 90-point guy. I think last year, it was 79 points. Like, this kid is right there as a legit number 1 center now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. It took him, and I think most of the team, a few games to get their legs under them and get the nerves out in the playoffs. And what stood out for me for Sanderson was like it took him zero time.
Right.
He was the only player who looked like he'd been there before.
Well, he stepped in at the Four Nations, right? He didn't even make the Four Nations.
Yeah.
Somebody had to, I don't remember who got hurt or who had to step aside. They call Sanderson, you want to go? You may just be a seventh guy. Like, don't read too much. And he's like, all right. And he shows up by the end of it. He's a major contributor playing top 4 minutes. Like, this kid
broke my heart and gave me hope at the same time. I'm really glad Canada won that, or else it would have been a different state.
Sure, yeah. For Sens fans, having Brady and Sanderson and whatever there. Leaving Merlanen, look, I don't know, but he did help get them 8 wins last year. That's 16 points. To have him as a number 4 goalie under the age of 25, like, I don't have a problem with it, but I have no idea how to read goalies and what they might be.
Yeah.
Heading into this season, Allmark, I think we all understand, is a legit number 1. Had his ups and downs last year, but I think now he'll be settled in a little bit, more used to the team, but I don't think you really want him playing more than, 55 games. So Ottawa's backup's going to have to play 30. Just on what we've seen thus far of him, are you comfortable with Merlanen playing 30 games or so? Or
I'd like to see it. I have a hard time judging goalies under the age of 27, if I'm being honest with you. Like, it takes a while for goalies to develop, and we know that. And one thing that Ottawa has not done well historically is develop goalies.
Sure.
So I'm kind of in a I'll believe it when I see it phase with that. But yeah, this is a good opportunity. They need a solid number 2. The backup, the bona fide backup position is up for grabs. Mm-hmm. It's his opportunity to grab it. But I will say I won't get too discouraged if, let's say, he doesn't maybe do all that well in that role, because I still think you want to give him a couple more years. You want to take your time, and you don't want to rattle him or scare him. Yeah. So hiding behind Allmark is a good place to be, right? And I also feel like Allmark, play aside, would be a great person to learn from.
Sure.
He seems to have a really good perspective. He's obviously a very talented goalie, and he's seen a lot, and he's learned a lot. And so as a young goalie, I think that's a great person to learn from and develop under. But I think it's going to take more than one season of, let's say he is in the solid backup role. Mm-hmm. I'd give him more than one season to really judge that.
We are down to the hot and heavy stuff at Euro25. We are headed to the semifinals. Tee up the semis for us. What's surprising about who's here? What's what was always going to be the way it's played out? Kind of any notes that you've had through, obviously, round robin and the quarters, things that have maybe caught you off guard heading into these semis, and things that were always going to be, I expected those guys to be here, those girls to be here.
There you go. It's
Good
funny,
job,
like
man.
Good job, men. If you look at the semifinal team, so we've got England versus Italy and then Germany versus Spain. Aside from Italy, there's no big surprises there, and I'll get into Italy in a second. But those 3 teams, England, Germany, Spain, all within the top 5, I believe, internationally. The last Euro final was England versus Germany, so on paper, none of this is really surprising. However, Germany beating France in the quarterfinals yesterday was a big surprise based on how France played in this tournament. They were looking real, real good. This game had a red card and a player ejected for pulling someone's hair. It went to penalty kicks.
I hate to see it. Rhea Ripley would never tolerate. Right?
How? No, absolutely not. It was as dramatic as it could have been, and I had France winning that game, so I was, with all due respect to Germany, very shocked to see them win. That being said, they are still one of the best teams in the world, so
Sure.
I'm not that shocked. But I really thought this was France's. I thought if anybody was going to take down England, it was going to be France. They did in the opening game, but now even in the elimination round, I thought we'd see an England-France final. So that's not going to happen. But nonetheless, they've got a very good Germany team in the semis against a very good Spanish team who's coming off a World Cup win in 2023. So that's going to be a huge matchup. The England's path here was also surprisingly dramatic, right? They lost their opening game to France. They thankfully turn things around with big wins against the Netherlands and Wales to get out of the group. And then the quarterfinals versus Sweden. I don't know what it is with Sweden and penalty kick games, but we're all traumatized here in Canada from it. But this game went to penalties, went to sudden death penalties. It saw Sweden go up 2-0 early in the game, only for England to come back and tie the game 2-2. First time in the Euros that's ever happened.
Wow.
So it was just like drama on top of drama on top of drama. Vanessa and I were recording on Thursday, and this game was going on Thursday, so we couldn't start recording until the game was over. So we're sitting in the studio watching this on our phone, just like losing our minds. It was so exciting. And then Italy being here is the biggest surprise. They played Norway in the quarterfinals. Norway's got huge names like Euro25 out of Chelsea, Ada Hegerberg out of Lyon, one of the best players in the world. Yet Norway really struggles to get it done in major international tournaments. They've never been past the quarterfinals of the Euros. They didn't even make the quarterfinals last time. They didn't make it out of the quarters in the World Cup. Like, they really do struggle in these big tournaments for some reason, despite having so many big name players. And Italy took them down 2-1. Like, this is funny enough. This is like the least dramatic game of all of the quarterfinal games. And now Italy is taking on England in the semis, which is going to be really, really exciting.
It's the least dramatic game, but like, is it the biggest shocker of it? Like, just when you say that, is it the way the game played out, or is it the result? Like, I don't think anybody saw Italy being here, right? But
no. I'd say it was the least dramatic in that it was just a 2-1 full-time win.
Just one
there
of those
was
games.
no penalties.
Yeah.
There was I'm not seeing any red cards.
Sure.
Whereas 2 out of the 4 quarterfinal games had red cards. 2 out of the 4 went to penalties. Like, it just felt like a, by and large, clean and tidy game.
Right.
Despite the score, the dramatic part was Italy winning.
Sure.
And it was, if I might be thinking of a different game. I thought it was an own goal, but it wasn't. No. But Italy also, like, they outplayed them, which was equally shocking.
Sure.
They outshot them shots on target 6-1, which Italy just played a really solid game.
Ada Hegerberg here. Like, are they miles like ahead as being the underdog? Like, miles ahead as an underdog is not the proper phrase, but you know what I mean. Like, is it like, holy crap? They shouldn't be here, and thus I wouldn't put any money on them going any further? Or is there something that you're seeing out of them that says, yeah, maybe they got a little something here? Like, we'll see.
I definitely wouldn't write them off because, again, like, to take down Norway, like, you do have to be good. And Christiana Girelli she scored the 2 goals in this game. And when you've got a player like that who's very, very strong offensively, like, I do think that they shouldn't be taken lightly, and I don't think England would take any of their opponents lightly. But England's been really inconsistent this tournament,
right.
And even in the game against Sweden, like, they did win, but like they came back to win, and they barely won, and they lost to France, and like, it has not been a clean tournament for England. So I think if I'm England and I'm about to go up against an opponent who is an underdog, but who had a very impressive showing in the quarterfinals, like, I'd be a little nervous, if I'm being honest with you. Like,
sure.
But I think that's what is going to make it such an exciting game. Because on the one hand, you've got England, who are trying to repeat. They're defending their Euro title from 2022. There's all this pressure on them. And then you've got Italy, who are on this kind of Cinderella run, which I know is one game, but still, with the chance to take down a big name like England when you already did that to Norway. So I think it's going to be really, really exciting.
You know, when you look at the Final Four now, is one of these two you sort of teed up here why Italy and England is going to be interesting. But, just who's left as, in your mind, the favorite? Is there one thing that we should be looking for when these two semis kick off in terms of player matchups, or a name to keep an eye on, or a strategy somebody has put into, just as we get ready for these semis, something to keep an eye on here?
Yeah, the Germany-Spain game is definitely going to be interesting because you've got Spain. They're the World Cup winners. They're after the U.S. They're the best team in the world right now. Mm-hmm. And yet they're also going through their own kind of tumultuous time, which they always are because their federation absolutely sucks. And we all remember the Luis Rubiales shit. And the fallout from that was like a player like Jenny Hermoso was left off the team for, they'll give us some bullshit reason, but we all know why.
Right.
You've got...
well, this is for people who don't follow soccer, which is probably a lot of people on this show, right? We don't talk a lot. But that was the member of management and the coaching side who kissed one of the players after they won the World Cup. And that set off all kinds of fireworks inside the organization, players saying they weren't going to play or were uncomfortable with it. And the guy ends up getting let go, but now you've drawn a line, right? Like you've got two different sides within your own federation, which creates just a mess, right?
Which unfortunately they had before.
Okay.
So like Louis Rubiales kissed Jenny Hermoso. He finally gets ousted, but like not because the federation did the right thing, because FIFA of all organizations stepped in and
of
did the right thing.
Yes.
Exactly. Like when FIFA's telling you fucked up, you fucked up. And the Spanish Federation like held on to Rubiales by the skin of their teeth. Like they had to pry him from their cold dead hands kind of thing. And there was a whole other thing with their coach, Jorge Vilda, who treated the players terribly. He's finally been let go. He's still coaching women's soccer, unfortunately. But like it's that kind of stuff that we just always see from the Spanish Federation, because there's a lot of corruption within that federation, and they don't treat their women's team fairly. And yet, despite all that, their women's team is the best team, in my opinion, the best team in the world.
Right.
I don't acknowledge the U.S. women's national team as a concept. So I think they're the favorite. And at the same time, Germany is ranked third, right? So they're right behind them. They went to the finals in 2022. Germany's always that team that's like right there. It's like always a bridesmaid, but never a bride.
Sure.
I hate to use that comparison in women's sports. I realize how sexist it sounds, but just for the purposes of this conversation.
Women.
See, women can be sexist too. Women in male-dominated fields, Matt. But they are that team that's like always in the semis and just never quite gets past. So I don't tell Vanessa this, and I hope she's not listening. But I am cheering for Germany. At the same time,
she's gonna be mad.
She's gonna be so mad. I think an England-Spain final, a rematch of the World Cup would be amazing.
For those who don't know Vanessa really well, it's Vanessa Sanchez. If you're not certain why she's going to be mad, it's...
And Vanessa's in an interesting spot, too, because her family is half Spanish, half Italian. So if it ends up being an Italy-Spain final, I haven't asked her what she's going to do, but I don't want to know.
But you need to go watch the game with her, because the food's going to be incredible either way.
That's true. That's very true. I'm just going to sit in the background as a neutral third party, like, oh, no. While I eat paella.
Right.
And at the same time, England, like I said, England-Spain would be a rematch of the World Cup. England-Germany would be a rematch of the last Euro final. So I think there's so many different ways that this could go that make it so interesting. So we're in for a very, very dramatic week of soccer, I think.
Well, we got two different places we could go here to finish out. I assume neither one of us has strong thoughts on the Leafs acquiring Dakota Joshua for their fourth line. So why don't we go to the other one, which would be the Ottawa REDBLACKS. And it's difficult to have too in-depth of a conversation right now. As you and I sit here, we've established it's early Sunday afternoon. They are going to play Hamilton in the second half of their home and home back-to-back here later tonight. So we don't know, as you and I talk, how that one has played out. But they're 1-5, and Shreds, I'm upset. I'm hurt. And too many things just look familiar. I actually was going to ask you if you were going tonight. I can't remember now if you guys gave up your season tickets or you were still going.
We did.
Yeah.
We gave them up. We still go to games.
Sure.
We kind of make a judgment call. Like if it's weather's looking good, and it's a day that we don't have to go to.
No.
Teams looking good. Never mind. We went to the Canada Day game, mostly because I wanted to see JJ Wild. And it was against the also not at the time, but now 1-5 Argos. So how could you not want to see that riveting football? But all this to say, we're not going tonight.
I think that's fair. The girl's on vacation. She doesn't have to subject herself to trauma like this.
Exactly. I want to spend my vacation enjoying myself, not watching two teams punt back and forth for 2.5 hours.
Holding. Look, there was some debate going into the season, and certainly towards the end of last year. Like, they got off to the great start. We all know then the second half wasn't good. Then they had the really nice start of the East semi. Then that went off a cliff. It was a microcosm of the season. There was lots of talk of Bob Dice and what needed to change. But look, they've changed coordinators. They've changed some of the person, like some of the names they've brought in here. Like Stanback's been really good, right? You look at Gino. Gino's been great. Like they've changed some of these players. Is it too simplistic in your mind? Like, am I just doing that thing that fans do where you're like, I'm upset, my team's doing bad, fire the coach? Or is that the only piece left at this point when you look at these guys?
It's funny, like, we, for a long time, had the Mouchoir podcast, and Janine and I stopped it for various reasons. We were just too busy and couldn't keep things going. And at that point, they had been bad for 5 straight years. And there was a little bit of both of us that were like, I just can't find a storyline to talk about this team every single week because it's the same shit every single week. And they changed the GM, they changed the coaching staff, they changed the quarterbacks, they've changed everything. What the hell else is there to change? And we're seeing the same stuff. Yeah. And then last year, ironically, the first year that the podcast was not happening, they make the playoffs and they have, like, by and large, like you said, an okay season, all things considered. Like, it was up and down, but, on average, it was okay. That's right. So we thought we were the problem. I'm really happy. It's me.
Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
Exactly. I'm happy to report that that doesn't appear to be so, but the same problems that I think were pervasive still even last year, just covered up a little bit. The same problems exist. Like, this team just cannot string together a drive. They're so disjointed. Ooh, I hear a second beer opening up. Is that the 2.5%?
This is, The Red Blacks talks get me all fired up. I need something to lower.
That's fair.
The
Listen, a can opening is more interesting than any Red Blacks discussion right now. And I say that with love in my heart for the Red Blacks because I'm at the same point I was a couple years ago where I'm like, I can't, like, how many different ways can we say this team is just bad and there's almost no explanation for it? How many different times can you change
just
the roster?
Penalties too at the worst times. They're undisciplined. Look,
they're very undisciplined.
And look, it's oversimplified. Like, it's too easy. Look, we got because frankly, it's a story we told on this show. I got to say, this Moonlight Dark Lager tastes really, really, really nice for 2.5%. Well done to Lake of Base. Holds the body, holds the whatever, but lowers the alcohol beautifully. Look, you bring in Rick Campbell, and I asked a couple different people on this show and said, is it ballsy of Bob Dice to basically bring his replacement into the fold? But that's not what this is. And it looks right now like, that's what this is, right? Like, I'm not saying he intentionally hired his replacement, but you did bring him in, and if it doesn't go well, and it hasn't, I don't know, at 1-5, and look, by the time you, good listener, hear this on Monday morning, maybe they're 2-5. I'm not sure how much that really changed. Like, you've already lost the tiebreaker, like, in terms of how good you're going to have to be in the second half. Toronto has the tiebreaker on you. Hamilton has the tiebreaker on you. Like, you're in a bad spot. And if they lose, I know football's a different sport where you don't always fire your coach in season. But look, if they lose here tonight, Schreider's season's over. It might be over now, but it is for sure over if they lose tonight. And at that point, why wouldn't you just put Rick Campbell back in charge? Let him have half a year to try and set you up for next year. I don't know. Like, it's just been a bummer to see how familiar this all feels. And that's been the worst part, is these feel like familiar losses, familiar problems. And you've replaced the OC. You've replaced the DC. You've replaced a lot of players. At some point, even if it's unfair, it might just be that it's your HC.
Yeah, Jesus, what's Henry Burris doing right now? Why don't we run it all back? Like... It can't hurt.
At least that would be interesting.
I also maintain that, like, I know Drew Brown has certainly of all the, and there were many of them, quarterbacks that the Red Blacks have cycled through in the last 6 or 7 years. Drew Brown is the most consistent, and he's looked the best, and I do think he's the guy. But he's still young. This is still if I'm not mistaken, is his first consistent starting quarterback job in the CFL, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like he was here last year, but still his first team. Yes.
That was his first kind of run, and he looked good. And that's why I think he is the guy. At the same time, last year was still his first time.
Again, to be fair, they were without him for a few weeks here to start.
Yeah. And it's still like, it's amazing how much a young and relatively inexperienced quarterback they need a lot of support, and they're not going to be the Henry Burrises of the world who can kind of put a team on their back because they've been there, done that. The Red Blacks haven't had a solid bona fide star quarterback, I would argue, since Henry Burris, but Trevor Harris was good, but he never got them kind of over the hump.
Yeah.
I think that is also a part of it, and I'm not saying go with someone else other than Drew Brown. I'm saying that he is not a quarterback that is going to cover up a ton of problems on a team, which other quarterbacks can do. Yep. You have a really experienced quarterback who can bring out the best of your players. You're going to cover up a lot of problems. The Red Blacks just don't have that. Unfortunately, it is kind of a team effort, and therefore all the flaws of that team are going to be emphasized, and that's exactly what's happening right now. I still think Drew Brown is the guy going forward, but
agreed.
He's got to get some experience, right? Like, he's still very young in that sense. I don't know his age, but like
he's early in his starting days.
In his starting days, it's year 1.5 for him, really, or year almost year 2.
Yeah.
So I just think that's a part of it. It's tough, man. Oh my God, it's tough being a Red Blacks fan.
It really is. We'll wrap it up here. Look, you're on holidays, so you are going to be in rare form, I'm sure, and available to watch these Euro semifinals. I don't want to cast any judgment on, did you plan your holidays specifically knowing when Euro25 was, these sorts of things. But what's coming up for you, A, in your own little holiday here as we wrap that up, but B, does that mean there won't be a new She's Got game this week? Like, what's coming up for you?
Yeah. No rest for the wicked in terms of She's Got game. We're still doing that. It's funny. I didn't have any trips planned, although we can put a pin in this for another episode. But Josh and I are going to Seattle for maybe a statue unveiling of a certain player in a few weeks. But that's... Who could that be? Not Larry Bird.
No. Okay. Yeah.
So other than that, but we only just booked that recently. I didn't have any trips. I didn't have anything planned. So I was like, I just need 2 weeks off in the summer to relax. And so I just picked 2 weeks in July. And then it was after I booked it that I went, oh shit, the Euro. This is like peak Euro time. Right on. Like, I planned this well.
I don't know if you know that this is a thing. Apparently that in March, appointments for vasectomies go through the roof. Men choose that time to have a vasectomy because you're going to be laid up for a couple days and you watch March Madness, the beginning, the first, all day, every day, there's a game on. So
well done, men.
Good job, men, right? This is what we do.
Good job, men.
It's amazing how good men are at planning when it comes to things like that, but nothing else.
Important things.
No, so you're definitely going to watch some Euro soccer. I did go to Blues Fest on Friday. I went to see Green Day, which was a ton of fun.
What'd you think? Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. It was a fantastic show.
You went with Josh, right?
I did, yeah. Neither of us were caught cheating. There's no Coldplay concert, but we were on the lookout. No, it was great. They sounded amazing.
I saw on his Instagram, he was there too, but you could have been there with other people, for all I know.
Yeah,
right?
you never know.
An even worse way to get caught.
Yeah, seriously, by each other.
Yeah. Oh, hi.
Awkward.
We'll talk about this at home.
But no, the show was fantastic.
Yes.
Like they sound amazing, and there were 3 bands of my childhood, my teenage years that really summed up my high school days, and that was Blink-182, Sum 41, and Green Day. And in the past 2 years, I've gotten to see all of them live, so kind of completed the trifecta.
You're like a decade younger than me, and those were my high school bands too.
But you know what's funny? The albums that I listened to were probably different than the ones you did.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like those bands really did kind of
For me, it's
personify.
Like Dude Ranch, it's Half Hour Power, it's
So mine was American Idiot by Green Day,
great
Chuck
album.
by Sum 41, which is their 3rd album, and I still love All Killer No Filler, but like that was my favorite album. And then Blink-182's self-titled album, like the one with Feelin' This.
That was a good album.
It was a great album and very underrated. I loved Enema of the State and
inside my head. Yes.
I loved Enema of the State. I loved Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, but those 3 albums, like I wore out in back in the days when we listened to CDs. For those wondering what those are,
how do you wear the Spotify, right?
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Dating myself.
Yeah.
So no, Green Day did such a good job. They played all the hits. They had a couple new songs, but they're so good. But like they played every song you wanted them to,
sure.
and that's the key when you're a band like that.
Of course,
you got to play the hits, man.
100%. You guys play the hits every weekend on She's Got Game. You and Vanessa Sanchez, always a fantastic listen. And look, by next Friday night, you're live at 6 p.m. on TSN 1200, and then at different times across the country on TSN Radio, but always available as a podcast. Look, coming out of the semis, that'll be interesting to get your take then. Highly recommend that program. We'll link to it in the show notes. Shrides, appreciate this. I do have to take a second. I did mention Dustin Poirier announcing his retirement or confirming his retirement coming into UFC 318. Steve Bunda will be here later this week. We'll talk about that. He'll obviously have some takes on the Red Blacks as well, no doubt. And on Wednesday, July 23rd, a deep dive with Ian Mendez, his first year working for the Ottawa Senators. So a good week coming up around here. As this was a good day around here. Shrides, always appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Good job, men.
Good job us, I say. We'll wrap this one up here. Shrides continues her vacation, as do I. I'm going to allow this 2.5% beer to take me a little further, and then we'll see what happens from here. Stick around. You'll probably hear about that on the podcast later on. For Michaela Schreiter, my name is Matt Robinson. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.